How many, Hamans are there or Amaleks are there? How many times do we have to go through this? Didn't we hit like the ultimate of evil in the Holocaust? What about never again? What was it that makes people hate Jews? I think what we are dealing with is a time of hate. More than anti-Semitism, there's haters. Even looking at Hanukkah, that was a war, a civil war between Jews. And that is a little bit of what's going on now. I'm a rabbi who never wanted to turn anyone away because I knew you never know when they're going to come back or they're going to raise their kids Jewish. And whether you're Christian or Muslim or Jewish, we all believe in the Ten Commandments, and they are inserted into the Declaration of Independence. Here's the Torah on one foot. Love your neighbor as yourself. I just want to scream it. And we have resilience. We don't give up. We don't let the light go out. Walk your Judaism out in the world. I said, every one of you is a missionary. They're looking at the Jew. How's the Jew going to do this?
The Jew saw them all, beat them all, and is now what he always was. All things are mortal but the Jew. All other forces pass, but he remains. What is the secret of his immortality?
Welcome everyone to the Jew Function. I'm Leo.
Hello, I'm Seth. Good to see everyone.
Good to see everyone. Well, we never see anyone, but it's good to know that people are listening. Yeah, no, it's good to know. I do know people are listening. We get the reports from YouTube, from Spotify, from TikTok, from Facebook, from everywhere, and there is a crowd out there. Not everybody's on our side, but at least they're listening. So that's important, and we appreciate that. We invite everyone to come talk about this topic with us, and I mean it. Jews, non-Jews, anyone really, and we are trying to use this independent channel as much as we can to have a conversation that people are not usually having for whatever reason. I think it's very important, but what I usually hear is there's a group of people who talk about the greatness of Israel, of Jews. They try to kind of sing our praises in the media, which is great. It's everybody likes to hear compliments about themselves. And then there's the rest of the world, but there's very little in terms of an actual study of why the friction exists, like really why it's there. I'm not talking about people who invent stuff to justify some other, some other agendas. But really, if you go down to it, why people feel the way they do toward Jews, and after all those years, and why people haven't really changed their minds after everything Jews have done and are doing for the world. And yes, we're not perfect. Nobody is, but we do try. So try hard. So the question remains why this thing persists, and I think that for the most part we've had some really good conversations here, and I'm looking forward to today's conversation as well. So once again with this special individual, like all the people who come here. And before we invite her on, Seth, I wanted to know if you feel that with the Middle East going through a total reset, and America is about to go through some form of a reset, do you feel are you anticipating some big change in the attitude toward Jews, or what's
No, I want to withhold my comment about that, but what I do want to just put on the table is that we have to understand, for example, when you see that 7.5 million or something people were displaced out of Syria over the last few years, since the last 12 years or whatever it was. And you see almost 1 million of Germany absorbed almost 1 million Syrians. And then you see some of the footage from the prisons there. People been in jail, in dungeons for 30 years. I don't hear any protests on any college campuses. I don't hear any marches in the streets, anything. And even after it comes out, Like, okay, you didn't know, but even after it comes out and the it's just, and I don't expect that anything's going to change in that regard. I think that that the Hamasniks are still going to, be wearing their fashionable kafiyas and lattes, but it is striking from our point of view. Again, it shouldn't really be surprising, but it's so striking to see it glaring in front of your face that the Jews are held to a completely different standard. And I think that what we can attribute it to is, like, if I don't want to say it like that, but, like, if your dog did the wrong thing, you have one response, and if your adult responsible child did the wrong thing, you feel more, you expect a lot more from the child who you raised than you would from a dog. And the only way I can understand what's going on is that even if people are completely unconscious of it, they expect from the Jews are held to such a ridiculously high standard that any tiny deviation it causes this response in people. And so why is that? What is it about the Jews? And hopefully we can get into that today.
Yeah, and just for the viewers, we do have a strong view on what is it about the Jews. So if you want to hear it, definitely tune into the first 22 episodes.
Not a mystery.
Yeah, you can find all the information in the links below. You can you can binge it. It's great. It's fun. It's great music and sound effects, and
the first group of 20-something episodes.
First 22 episodes, like the letters of the Hebrew alphabet for some reason.
Okay.
It just so hold on.
All right, let's bring our surprise.
Yes. Okay. Yeah. So, all right. So, without further ado, she's been very patient, and we've almost had her last week, but now we finally got her. We're delighted to meet a fellow Jew who is, I don't know if you guys spoke before the show. I don't know if it feels like she's with the misfits or she's with those who fit in. We'll find out soon. But she's a senior rabbi Cantor at the congregation Beth Israel in Colleyville, Texas, and the founder of Nachshon Minyan, which is a community of unaffiliated Jews seeking to rewrite their negative stories about religion and reintegrate faith in their daily life. That's from her bio and description. And she's Judy Greenfeld. Please, let's give her a warm welcome.
That's my cue.
That's
yes,
your cue.
There you are. Hello. The butterfly, the transformational.
The big reveal.
That's my hope. It's such a pleasure to be here with you. It's great to see you, Leo and Seth, and I'm a fan, and I think that I share many of your views, although I'm not really allowed to speak politically, so I'm going to veer away from that. But so many of the things
and then we'll express it.
That's right. There you go.
And just a note, I mean, it's not like we're political. I mean, I can't even vote in the U.S., and I'm just, we're just trying to look at things from the point of view of the system, how things work, the forces that move things behind the forces that move things. So that's, just
I agree with you. I think there are forces. I think that we could do that Kabbalistically. I think we can do that culturally. I think that we can do that historically. And I do that. I mean, that's the way I study and the way I teach. I want to give a full perspective because this has been a big interest of mine as well. I actually, I went back to my Jewish roots. I went to Poland and to Germany and to Russia, and I was part of a whole team of cantors that brought their congregations back to Auschwitz to bring music there, and it was powerful. And obviously I've been to Israel. Well, not obviously, I've been to Israel many times. I'm part of the Hartman Institute, and I want to know. I mean, that was such a strong motivation for me to go to Israel and see what was it that makes people hate Jews. And I work with 13-year-olds who say, why are we hated? And so I think that that's a really important question,
Yeah,
especially now.
we've been that's how we know each other. We met each other studying Kabbalah with the Rav in Israel, and
Lucky
through
you.
yeah, and then through this whole process, trying to understand like, what the heck is going on, and then looking at the sages and what they say, and then looking at history. Like the beginning of our whole podcast was looking, and it was shocking that growing up, I don't know about exactly how you grew up, but I grew up secular. We went on the holidays, and basically, why does everyone want to kill us? Okay, we survived again by a miracle. Wait, why does everyone want to kill us again? We survived. And it turned out that like everything is so cyclical. Like all of our stories are so cyclical, and it's not all random, and it's not all happening for no reason. And the costumes and the scenery changes from generation to generation, but there is some underlying story there. Now, I don't subscribe to this thing that the Jews are doing things wrong. Now, we take full responsibility actually for the problem and for the solution, but not from I don't subscribe to this thing that we're kind of doing things wrong and that's why we're still punished. I take it from this response from the point of view of like the development. Like you don't criticize the caterpillar before he becomes a butterfly. He's on this process, and to get all of humanity to this place of love and brotherhood, it's a process. It doesn't happen in a minute, especially in a world full of savage people. It takes quite a while. You made it your profession. For me, it's like I try and dedicate as much time to us as we can, but it's not a profession. And what I'm really interested in is especially among younger people, but 20s, 30s, and so like, do you feel that people care about these things and you're there mentoring people and leading a community? You led a community in California and now you're leading a community in Texas. And like, what I really want to know is what the heck are people actually asking them the deeper questions? Do people want to know the why? Not just because the Jews were successful or Jews killed Jesus, or, no, but like really, like what is at the root of this? Are people searching for this yet? Or are we still, 20 more years and two more intifadas until we kind of get to the point where people are ready to, understand who are these Jewish people and what are they supposed to be doing here?
So in the United States, there's a variety. I'm sure you've read the Pew Report, but I can tell you that, first of all, I'm not a rabbi of misfits, the misfit toys.
We'll still accept you amongst the
I know
misfits.
you're teasing. But I am I did draw Jews who woke up, who were waking up, and they weren't just content to sit in a service and not tune in and not be involved, at least emotionally, and not know what's going on. Because you'd be surprised how many conservative Jews have no idea. And I'm not sure so much Orthodox because they stress so much study, but I originally am a conservative Jew. Now this is conservative back east. I come from Cleveland, Ohio. And so Jersey, I get you. And I don't know, Leo, where you originate, but
I'm Tel Aviv,
Tel
first
Aviv,
25 years, and then
Way
Brooklyn.
more secular than you and me, Judy.
Yeah.
okay.
So Tel
So
Aviv first 25 years, then Brooklyn another 25 years, and then back here. Well, not 22 years, then
So
back here.
growing up, secular Jews or Reformed Jews, like you weren't allowed to really talk to them. They were Christian, in the eyes of the conservative movement. I had parents who were very involved in organizations. The biggest one was ZOA. My father was the national vice president of the Zionist Organization of America. Growing up, we even had a license plate that said ZOA. I was kind of embarrassed of that. And
It was it was a nice coffee shop to go to in Tel Aviv at the ZOA house in Tel Aviv. It was like, I knew the
right.
place. So,
But I couldn't have been less connected to Israel at the time. I don't know why. Maybe it's a rejection of parent thing. But he, that was his passion. Now, my father was murdered when I was 16. And I don't think it had anything to do with being a Zionist, but it sent me in a direction of really questioning and a passion for seeking answers to the whys. What's happening in our world? And there's a lot of animosity between the Black community and the Jewish community, and just the white community that was happening at that time. It was the 70s. So, we really never found out the reason. However, I think what we are dealing with is a time of hate. I mean, more than anti-Semitism, there's haters. And I think that people love to blame. There's not one reason for anti-Semitism, but like you said, in the line of history, they found there was an answer for all of it. And even looking at Hanukkah, and what was going on with the Greeks and the Jewish people at that time is so similar to, the Jewish people loved the Hellenists. They were fun. I mean, who wouldn't want to be a Hellenist and wear those cool outfits and, and otherwise hang out with the Orthodox Jews? I mean, come on. And mythology, that's interesting. So that was really, people don't want to talk about it, but that was a war, a civil war between Jews. And that is a little bit of what's going on now. And there's nothing wrong with being a secular Jew. In fact, secular Jews, I think, keep us going with all their organizations. They're Jewish in a different way. They're Jewish in their heart. They're Jewish, and this is the key word, in their spirituality. One of the things that was paramount for me was to see Judaism as a spiritual practice. All of the rules and laws and traditions, for me, have become a Jewish spiritual practice. So every day, whether I'm in synagogue or not, I'm framed in a Jewish frame through my values, what I choose to do, what my thinking is, and that's what I try to teach. All of that being said, I'm a small corner. I'm very much a believer in, and I've written 2 books on Jewish mysticism, prayer, movement, meditation, about the morning prayers. My first book was called Minding the Temple of the Soul, which I co-wrote with Tamar Frankiel before I became a Cantor or Rabbi, and adding movement, meditation, and prayer to the Berachot HaShachar so that you could feel it and have a Jewish experience, because it will take you back in history and teach you everything you need to know.
Yeah,
about the
those are
soul.
beautiful blessings, by the way. It's like, wow,
Right. And then entering the Temple of Dreams, which is the second book, which is about going to sleep at night with the bedtime Shema, the other prayers that are associated, being in a sukkah of peace, and then going into the dream. Because as is this time of the year, it's about Jacob, his dreams. He meets God in his dreams. We too have an experience. If you're Kabbalist, it's the 60th of death and it's the 60th of prophecy. So that being said, it's interesting to wonder, is this just our plight? We've seen it over and over. How many, Hamans are there or Amaleks are there? How many times do we have to go through this? Didn't we hit like the ultimate of evil in the Holocaust? What about never again? And we thought it was education, right? We all get together, we have these brilliant ideas, and we were like, educate, educate, educate. Now we're sitting here, as I've heard, and you guys say this too, it's not working. We have the ADL, which ensures eyes on everything, not working. I'm sure you know who Rabbi Sachs is. If you don't, you need to know who Rabbi Sachs is. Love him. And what he says is that this is the anti-Israel or anti-Zionism is the new anti-Semitism, because this is what's bringing up so much of this old memory again, this issue. I want you to know that I'm at a synagogue, and that my draw was, I don't know if you know much about Beth Israel of Colleyville. 2 years ago, they had a hostage incident, and they were held up by a terrorist who felt that the Jewish people in New York could free his brother from probably Guantanamo, I don't know, Guantanamo or somewhere. And he held up the rabbi and about 5 of our members. And it was for hours, like for 15 hours. And in Texas, there's a SWAT team that came in, and it was a horrible thing. And he ended up dying. And the synagogue was traumatized, clearly. And it was just this trauma and this horrible incident. Thank God none of the people did die. And there's actually a documentary out on it. But one of the things that interested me is that they are still healing their trauma, and at the same time having a renaissance of we're growing again. That's why they brought me in, is they felt we need a new face, we need new energy, we need to do something different. The one thing that happened that was really a miracle is, and I didn't know this either because I'm not from Texas, I'm from Los Angeles, all right, for 35 years. This is the Bible belt buckle. Wow.
What does that mean?
That means that there are more churches on every street than you can even imagine. Every single Christian representation is in this area. It's very dense, very, bring new commandments into the school that are Christian, creationist issues, very few Jews, but this interest in Judaism, a lot of Messianic Jews. And most of the congregation, now I also ministered to a congregation in LA that embraced mixed marriages. Growing up, it was a shanda. My feeling is it's our future. We were in a melting pot in the United States. Well, that's exactly what's happened, right? Interracial, all of those things. I'm a rabbi who never wanted to turn anyone away because I knew you never know when they're going to come back or they're going to raise their kids Jewish. I'm in a synagogue in Colleyville where almost most of the people are converts and love Judaism. I'm in the process of doing 2 conversions right now, and which I love. And so all of the churches came around Colleyville and they gave them space and they got to know them. And there's been this really beautiful feeling of brotherhood because they were so appalled by it, which gives me hope that maybe it's not just an anti-Semitic thing, but it's a hating that's happening in our world and a blaming of, and Israel's easy, you can look at it in that way.
But related, you opened up with the Mac, the Hanukkah story, and then you said that now is like the same thing, and now you're kind of you're telling another story, but relate the two things.
When I teach the bar mitzvah students, I show them a picture of Israel on a map or on a globe, the old-fashioned globe, and I say, look how tiny we are. I used to think it was the whole Suez Canal. It was like, see the sliver and carve out the middle. That's it. When you give them that example, you see, and I tell the story, those are called Maccabees. We are Maccabees because we're so tiny, we're less than 1%. And I try to, I think that the important piece and maybe what you're looking for is, there is this cheering with Hanukkah. I don't know if you even remember the songs you learned as a kid. We have to really
Mao, so
Wait, Seth, she's a cantor. Let her.
okay, yeah. Come on, sing for us. We never had anyone come on our show and sing for us.
People sing Hanukkah songs, but I remember growing up with thou amidst the raging foe kind of thing. They're war songs, and we learned war songs in Hebrew school. As a conservative Jew, I went to Hebrew school 4 days a week. Misaviv Yom HaSa'ar, all these. And when I went to go teach, I went, you don't get to sing those songs anymore. In LA, I would ask the kids, I would say, and I taught religious school. I believed in working with the littlest to the eldest in their 80s. And my mother's 97, so I'll count her. They are a little enclave in LA, like there's a lot of Jews there. They told me they have not experienced anti-Semitism. Here in Colleyville, they've all experienced terrible anti-Semitism.
From Christians
Mm-hmm.
who think they killed Jesus?
Well, that's been dispelled. The Pope did dispel that, although
Before he wrapped Jesus in a
But,
keffiyeh.
well, not everybody got the memo, so there's still a few who think,
so we first tell the kids that's not true, and that's been redacted. So you don't get to say that. But there is still that feeling, probably from their parents or grandparents. They come back to temple because they want to know what to do. Even if they've left the synagogue, they come back because they're scared and they don't know what to tell their children or how to educate them. I spoke extensively with my religious school director, and I said, what are we doing here for the kids? They've experienced it, certainly a type of anti-Semitism or anti-Zionism in the temple. What are we doing to incorporate programs? Because, that's our answer, incorporate programs. And you know what? No one wants to hear them. Yes, we have the ADL. Yes, we have speakers. I'm having a speaker come tomorrow from ADL to talk about, and who served as a lieutenant and all of those things. But people don't want to come. It's too boring and too depressing.
I don't think anyone else is doing what we're doing. And yeah, and that's exactly it. Nobody can comprehend what we're talking about. Who would even say that anti-Semites have anything valuable to say without saying we're anti-Semitic or we're self-hating Jews? But there's something that everybody's missing in this whole picture. And the reason why the solution is so close is because we're not waiting for anyone else to change. We're not waiting for the laws to be enacted. We're not waiting for a new politician to get elected. The answer is way closer than everybody thinks.
like us, hit the bell thing on the YouTube so you can get a notification when the new episode is up. Well, this is the Jew function, and let's get back to our guest.
And because there isn't one thing to do, I will never give up on trying to educate. I read the Torah every day. I love Torah. It has so many answers and there's so many ahas. And if you two probably do, and you probably do it from a Kabbalistic standpoint too, as I do. And I don't believe that we are destined to be destroyed or that we're chosen. It's like, chosen for what? What are we chosen for? War?
It's a good question.
And that's what I usually say because Christianity, I think, loves us a lot because they believe if we go into Israel, we'll have the second coming, like the ingathering of the exiles. You've heard of that, I'm sure. But there is this sense that we're the authentic religion. We're authentic.
And you find that kids, you find that young people care about that?
No. I think that
what do they care about?
The little one, the younger kids?
No, not 10 years old. I'm talking about people who've 20s from 18 to 36, let's say. Like people who are not little yet, but not in, just running to pay the mortgage and deal with things, but like have enough time to think about the big questions.
The ones, and those are parents, believe it or not, I'd go from 30 to 36, and my children are in that age range. They are deeply connected to Israel, probably because of me. And I was a part of many organizations too that I wanted to learn about. Not that I'm involved with them only, but I wanted to hear the opinions like APAC or, there's also, I wanted to go to the other side, J Street, and I wanted to hear what they had to say. And the bottom line is what they teach this age group is that without Israel, and they certainly taught this to me, if the Jewish people didn't have Israel, we would have a Holocaust again. That's what I'm sure you heard that without Israel, we're in trouble because we need somewhere to go. The Greeks have Greece, the Romans have Rome. Everybody has their country. We would have nowhere to go, which I do believe after going to Eastern Europe. However, I want to answer your question. What they care about is the traditions. They love the traditions. They've forgotten most of what they learned. They come back, it's not synagogue, but it's the values. They want and they do connect with the values. And what that means is they love the foundational values of education for their families. They want the foundational teachings and core values of education and kindness and loving your neighbor as yourself. All of those qualities that will make a better world, a better social world, they connect with that. But you're asking another question. They're looking for their Jewish identity. And after doing over 100 bar mitzvahs, that's what the kids are connecting to, who they are and where they come from. And I feel that more than anything, bar mitzvah is the most important thing I can do, because that's what makes or breaks Judaism in America. Because every parent that's walked in my office has said, I'm a bad Jew. And it's contingent on whether they were bar mitzvah or not, or whether they dropped out of Hebrew school. I said, what makes you a bad Jew? Maybe we're all bad Jews, but it's the ticket is for them, and why they have their kids and encourage them to study for their bar mitzvah is because they feel like they've done their job. And the second thing is they want their child to have a Jewish identity. So when the kids come to me, I say, the values you have, like do community service. I said, where do you think you learned that from? Where do you think that came from? Do you think it's just school? And they do. Oh, that's just what everybody does in our culture. We try to be better people. And I said, no, that comes from the 10 Commandments. The 10 Commandments change the world. And whether you're Christian or Muslim or Jewish, we all believe in the 10 Commandments, and they are inserted into the Declaration of Independence. So yes, our culture has those values, but I want you to know they come, from Judaism. And I want them to have a perspective to know that they have all these tiers around them, but they're Jewish through and through.
You mentioned, go ahead,
you-
Spiegler.
No, if you have a thought going, so.
I'm interested if we have within Judaism something that is enough to bring the Jews, but all humanity, into the next phase where we need to be. Not just someone tried to kick our ass, we survived. Okay, next. Someone tried to kick our ass, we survived. But that through each of these things, maybe we could call it like that messianic dream. I don't want to get weird. It means a lot of things to a lot of people. I don't want to have any of that weirdness around it. But this world where everyone lives in love together. This world where nation won't lift sword against nation. This world where you don't need to teach anymore because everyone will know, from the youngest to the oldest. That's what I'm talking about. Like, to me, and I think this is really lost in so many of the conversations, like, our goal really is that our goal is to make a world of brotherly love. I mean, that's the end goal. You almost never hear people talk about like how to put on your tefillin or how to do Shabbat or how to do this, or what happened to the 6 million and how can we remember this. But like, where is the conversation going on about what is this gift that we have to bring to the world, of a world full of love? And we don't get the chance, Leo and I, to talk to that generation, like the bar mitzvah age kids, and a community like you do. And you brought up one of the things we talk about is love your neighbor as yourself. That's like this is what's really exciting to hear you kind of to hear you just say this come out of you. It's like, for me, it's very hopeful because a lot of what you're saying, okay, you're a rabbi, not okay, but you're a rabbi in a community, and there's many rabbis in a community. But the inner thing that you recognize and that you have the opportunity to bring this out of people, this huge vision, this huge new, like that, like the butterfly behind you, like humanity is in caterpillar stage right now. And we, our goal, Spiegler and me, it's not just that we're just going to keep repeating this thing. Oh, they hate us because we're rich, or oh, they hate us because, they killed more than we killed, or we killed more than they killed, or no, but this whole paradigm shift into something else. And I think in your very kind of non-misfit, very practical, pragmatic way of speaking, it's coming out of you. And I'm excited um, to hear that. And I'm excited to hear from you how to do that more to them, that this is the gift of the Jews, that this is something that the world needs. Like, yeah, Elon, it's awesome that you're gonna make life multiplanetary. Okay, so we'll fight each other on Mars, great. Okay, we're gonna have, I think he's great, that's not my point, but my point is, it
I
doesn't matter how
understand.
many iPhones and how many planets we populate, if we don't love each other, what are we going to use all these tools for? So, uh,
It makes me ecstatic to hear you say that because I think everybody's saying this. And to get to the place at this point in my life to be able to talk about it in mainstream Judaism is is why I became a rabbi, because I didn't hear it out there. I didn't hear what I loved the most, which was this discovery and what you're saying. Hillel said, here's the Torah on one foot. Love your neighbor as yourself. I just want to scream it. And
yeah.
by the way, Christianity believes that too. They say, oh, we have the same philosophy. I said, it's not just a philosophy. It is Torah. It is, if we don't do that, then what?
Hmm.
We're back at Noah, and God just might as well, have another flood. We
So,
must
so
have compassion.
it's easy to do it with someone like you because we agree on it and we agree on a lot of things. Like, how do you find the process of, our problem is like, we want to talk about this specific point to every Jew and say, as different as we all are, fine. Let's also find this place where we can all love above all our differences. You want to be Republican, you want to be Democrat, you want to be gay, whatever. That's fine. That's how God made you. Let's find this love above all differences. It's hard for us to
Yeah, I'm
find
sure.
places to do that. And what is your experience, with that?
Well, I agree. And I think when I hear the word spirituality, I hear that. You know, Judaism, people were saying you're spiritual, and I'd be like, well, what does that really mean? And that spirituality like in the Kedusha prayer, you're up on the mountain and you're looking out over everything, and there's a very large proscenium. There's a whole picture in the round. But in our world, power, money, and prestige are everything. And we are countercultural. Jews live lives Shabbat. It's countercultural. And everybody wants to fit in. That's what happened in Germany, too. And it's just these conversations, Seth and Leo, one person at a time. Maybe one person out there today is
One
going
a
to,
million at a time.
well, yes, that's what we would like. But remember, my first synagogue was called the Nachshon Minyan, which means, you might not know this, but Nachshon
One
was
dude who just went
right,
for it.
one person. But and then he took a leap of faith, the whole sea opened, which is also a metaphor for a paradigm shift. That sea cracked open into a world of pagans, a brand new possibility.
What do you mean into a world of pagans? What does that mean?
So if you look back at that time of Moses, right?
Yeah.
And you look at the societies, no one believed in one God. It was
Cracked
right,
into a world of pagans with his
and
yeah.
pharaohs and all of that, where people were always less than their king or their pharaoh, whatever. This said, we are brothers and sisters. Like all people are created equal. You can learn. Judaism shifted the entire world. If you look at it, we should talk more about what an explosion that was.
So,
Mhm.
so I have a question. So I've been listening to all of
I'm
this.
going to come back to what you asked, Seth, because I still have an answer for you. But go
No,
on.
you can add to it. I mean, I'm staying on the same topic.
Yeah,
Uh, I at the very, very beginning, you said that we keep, when we talked about this infinite loop, you said, yeah, we keep going to, more Amalek, and there's more Amalek, and there's, we're looking for, all around us, we see all these seeming endless, right, forces that are sort of closing in on us. And the question, and that ties everything that you two were talking about in the last 10 minutes or so, is at what point are people going to start to look for that quality inside of them? Because that's the thing that you haven't eradicated. And until you eradicate it inside of you, until you face it inside of you, you will
Which
keep
thing, Leo?
this Amalek. Okay, if you want to get a little technical, Kabbalistic, fine. Amalek is an acronym. Amenat, it means in order to receive. It's basically this rampant egoism, the egoism that, at the expense of everything and everyone. That quality. With some people it's small, some people it's big, but it's in everyone. It's in all of us. If you think that someone is worse than you, just wait till you're in their shoes. You think some CEO is terrible.
vote. Yes.
Yeah, you think Trump is bad. Let's see you become president of the United States. You'll see how big of an egoist you're going to have to be on the way up there. It's just right. There's no difference. But until we, and you said, oh well, there's a difference between the Jews and I mean the Christians thinks we share the same philosophy, but it's not philosophy. And that's the thing that we found, and that what we're trying to bring into it is this whole thing of love. It's not going to come by itself. It's not simply the next stage, and if we just hang tight long enough, it will finally happen. No, we have to take an active part in it, and the active part is to start looking inside of you. And again, as Seth said at the very beginning, it's not even about finding blame or guilt. It's none of those things, but it's just saying, look, we're built a certain way for a reason. You can find out what it is, but one way or another, you have to consciously, voluntarily, of your own free will, come to this realization and start to face these qualities inside of you, the Greeks inside of you, the Hellenized inside of you,
Yes.
right. And so that's the question that because this is I think the thing that nobody wants to deal with, because it's work, it's a responsibility, it takes effort, it takes it's
also super counterintuitive that the whole world exists inside of me. The Zohar says all the world is inside of me. So I mean, like, what the heck does that even mean?
Right. But it's
Well,
it's real. It's not a metaphor. It's not a
absolutely. And
So
we're meant to look at all those levels, right? You look at Pshat, you look at the Remez. Your Judaism is built on the ability to see multi-levels. It probably made us all ADD, but it's just asks us to look at a lot of levels. Throughout this time, and in our world right now, humanity's evolved. One, because of Sigmund Freud, who asked us to look for what wasn't there. So therapy pops in, right? And you have many people who have gone through tons of therapy, myself included, but what happens after therapy? Then let's say you're fine. Then you go to the next level where you say, well, what is my soul? And what am I incarnated in this lifetime to be? Like, these bigger questions come up. And people are seekers. I mean, maybe in LA there were more seekers, but I must tell you, they are just as much seekers everywhere at this point in the world, because it's dark. And you said, what is it going to be for people? And for some, it's pain. And for some, it's when their world isn't working. And some, it's when they lose their job. I mean, and right now in the economy, that was the big fear. But there's always a point God has made in this world moments where you have asked those important questions. Judaism, it has within it something called Musar. Do you guys know what Musar is?
I mean,
It,
we know. You tell us what you know.
well, the Musar practice is probably the most important thing that we can begin to teach our congregations. And I infuse that into Torah portion. I will say, what do you think you're studying Torah for? Now let's look at where you are in all of this. And to personalize it, see, Judaism didn't want to personalize anything in Judaism. It was always the we. And that may be what part of the problem is. But as in the first,
Is it the problem, or is it pointing to hinting at the solution, Rabbi Cantor?
well, every morning we begin with Moda Ani. It
Right.
starts with the I and then moves into the we.
Exactly. It always ends with the we. So, and on us, and we, and this. It's always.
So I want to bring in both, because if you're not okay and you don't know what your sole purpose is, you can't bring anything into the we. And therapy made people into the me, and they need what we need in our bigger cultures. Now look at the we. So one of the things is, what are the rabbis saying? And I want to go back to Seth, to what you said, is because, and in Israel, they listen, they think authentic Judaism, and I hope I don't get, I don't make the Orthodox movement angry, but that the Orthodox
They
movement
can
is
handle
the
it.
authentic Judaism that exists. I'll always hear from even people in my movement, well, what do the Orthodox say? Or the Orthodox say this. And I said, here's the deal. I went to a non-denominational school. You need to know what everybody thinks. And then you get to choose what resonates with you. That doesn't mean you're pick and choose, but they're the boundaries that were set. God did not want Moses to be bound in so tightly with every little thing that he was doing. And I feel that it's up to the rabbis, and there's more of us than you think, maybe more in California that I know, that are trying to break down those old barriers. But I've met a lot of resistance too.
Which barriers?
To bringing new ideas in, new prayers in, new melodies in.
Well, let me ask you though. So, what if, because the same thing happened in the election and it's still fresh over here. Everything is based on how do we divide everyone, right? But love your neighbor as yourself should be something that like, for example, you're going to sing, right? You're not going to sing in 770 Eastern Parkway in Crown Heights, like you're not going to get up on the beam and sing there.
Exactly.
But you and the biggest rabbi over at 770 probably can have an incredible conversation and share a lot about how to bring Ahavat Yisrael, or how to increase love of Israel, love of each other, love of humanity. Like we should start maybe at the most common thing instead of thinking about each of the different things that everyone has, because in your that's the point. The point is there is this one blanket that covers all of us, which is what you quoted earlier. Tell me the Torah on one foot, like that's it. We should be able to start with that. And then in each community, these ones want to be LGBTQ Jews. These want to be Orthodox Jews. These want to be this Jew, that Jew. Like, we'll get to that late. After we all love each other, solving all those problems is going to be a lot easier than trying to solve those problems on day one.
You're absolutely right, but that's a lofty goal.
Yeah.
You walk into
I agree.
But if not now, when? We already said never again, and it happened again. So what are we? Who are we kidding? Let's be honest here.
Right, and that is also, and that could turn you away from even trying. I mean, I became a cantor at age 40, okay? And because I was sitting there complaining about what's going on in the Jewish world. And my ex-husband at the time said, then do something about it. And it wasn't going to more organizations or volunteering. I wanted to get in there, and it's teaching our children. Hitler did something. Hitler he got them when they were kids. And he brought them throughout his time, he brought them to fruition when they were, teens or young adults. And that's when he took over. So why not take that same mentality? I hate using that idea, and teach them at age 13 or 12 what this is really about. And that we are spiritual people. We have a land, we have beauty. God loves us.
Jew Function is really it's a desperate attempt to change something about the rise in anti-Semitism that doesn't seem to go away, and looking at history usually ends with something terrible before we reach relative quiet again. But we don't want to reach something terrible. We want to do it now. So that's why we're doing this podcast. And if you like this, also consider leaving a small contribution on our Patreon channel. Right. We both have day jobs, by the way, so we're not hoping to make money from this. We're hoping to see some change of heart.
Any funds are used to get this out there, to get this to people. We consider this the same way you go out every day to get money to feed your family, put a roof over your head. This is also critically important to our future, to our safety, to a good world, not only for Jews, but for everyone.
Well, this is the Jew Function, and let's get back to our guest.
Growing up, I grew up with a lot of Methodist Christians. I lived in a suburb in Ohio, Pepper Pike, if anyone knows that, in Cleveland. And I was the only Jew. And it was weird. But my Methodist friends engaged me and they said, you have a punishing God. And I was like, what do you mean a punishing God? I do? Compared to Jesus, who loves everyone. And that was a very big thing, that in my generation, when we saw God was angry, God had flaring nostrils, God wiped the whole, human race out, that kind of looks a little punishing. Until I went to rabbinic school and I thought, no, in every prayer that we say, Ahava Rabbah, Ahav, Shema, V'ahavta, it's about love. And that's rather new. And I don't know if it has come in more with the women or with a need, but the fact that God loves us, yes, in the beginning, the Torah is about us evolving at the same time. God's evolving with us. And God's very parental in the beginning. Very parental. And maybe we needed that. And now God's like, all right, if you want me, I'm here. If you don't, do whatever you want. When you want me, I'm here. But the sense is, if you read the Torah that way, you will see a punishing God. And I had to relearn that for myself. All of this love doesn't look apparent in Judaism. And I have to keep repeating it. Every time I'm in services, look at the love. Look at the love. That's all there is. So it takes leadership. You're talking about real leadership that is proud and that brings this in, and not about money and not about property or prestige. And ego, I just want to tell you this last thing, and this doesn't come from me. It comes from probably the 12-step program. Ego is edging God out. Edging God out.
There's a clever acronym. I got it.
And every time we go to the Amidah, I say to as we get there, it's, you can't go in if you've got your head going or your ego. This is where you let it all go.
So this is perfect. I mean, we're definitely talking about the same thing. I mean, we we always look for little points of friction to make it interesting, but I mean, it seems like we want the same thing. The question is, and you've kind of came back to this education many times, and we also happen to see the great value of that, and looking to the future, we have to look into the next generation. If we can get some of the older guys to join, great, but it's really next generation. If we can do one generation right, then it's all downhill from there. So in a totalitarian regime, it's easy. It's just, this is what we're studying today and it's done. But even in Israel, I can tell you that Israel became this weird liberal, you'd think Israel is like, no, Israel, it's, there's a unified system and it's No, there's very little sort of unified curriculum. I have a few friends who are working in education, and they're working very closely with the Ministry of Education and trying to bring in programs that teach exactly that. Bring that. How do we bring that into the schools? And the situation has become quite catastrophic. Like the government cannot impose anything on schools. Like they give them money. They can say, look, you should allocate this much for something good, but that good, they can't like even tell them what it exactly, like every principal can choose where to put that money that's designed for good. Maybe they'll do it. Oh, we need another language, a second language, or we need more nature trips, or we need more activities that teach people to become humans, to actually learn how to be a human being, because we forgot how to teach that. So, but it is really, I don't want to say it's hopeless because things change all the time, but it really seems difficult. Do you have a clever idea on how to
Oh
bring
boy,
that
I would be,
education?
right. I would answer the question. You know, I feel like it starts with you, Leo, and it starts with you, Seth, and it starts with me. If I can impress all of what we talked about today on my minion, a minion's 10, right? 10 at a time in LA, I started. And I made a promise to God. I said, if you bring me 10, I'll continue. 10 kids came, 10 parents came. Now, what gave me hope is those little ones that came, they skipped to Hebrew school. Never seen that before. And they brought their parents back. I wouldn't do bar mitzvah. I didn't even like teaching kids. Now I love it. But they brought their parents back kicking and screaming because there's been a lot of damage and distortion in bringing Judaism, down to we look at Judaism. We have the gift of being able to look in hindsight, right? And in hindsight, we look back and we had a patriarchal religion and there's things that have had to evolve and change. And it's not going to happen tomorrow, but if your podcast is your pulpit and you're reaching thousands of people and you're letting them hear a woman's voice, a Rabbi Cantor, a legitimate Rabbi Cantor, tell them that it's going on. And now was given, thank you, God, another congregation that wants this. So in my lifetime, if I can affect 200 or 300 people, I mean, that's pretty good. And you have, if you said to me of thousands of people, if you can affect them, that's pretty good. And that's a gift. And the bottom line is if we're spiritual, we are souls that are doing our work. And we can't force it. I have spiritual friends. Oh my God, they've said the most anti-Semitic things to me. And I want to cry. And I thought, oh, well, we can figure it out together. You can't. There's too much, there's just too much. And I can hold them and pray for them, but they think that, we're barbarians and we're just killing wildly. It's a very, we are watching something that's very hard to watch in our world. The two of you bring me so much hope, especially that you're men and you're open and you're in Israel and you're in Jersey and your hearts are here. And you're talking about love. People would think that you were some love guru. That's a tough thing to talk about. And because love is so much more, but it comes from a lot of different tentacles of compassion. And High Holidays teaches you this. It's asking us to scour ourselves at every juncture of the calendar year. It's something I teach too. So it's serious business, High Holidays. And I treat it as if let's see where you are. And I teach a class called, of the calendar according to the moon. And where are you every month? You have to be accountable. And luckily, we have programs in the world and our kids in their 20s and 30s, and you ask about this, they're a little more evolved. My kids' friends have journals and trackers that track their from an emotional standpoint, their emotional selves. They're all trying to evolve emotionally. And the good news about that is in Israel, they're doing it with mitzvot. right? They track their mitzvot. And I think that whatever we find, I love what Abraham Joshua Heschel said, and this is also in my heart and what I try to teach. Walk your Judaism out in the world. I said, every one of you is a missionary. They're looking at the Jew. How's the Jew going to do this? And if you pick the old lady up off the side of the road, or if you go visit that family when somebody died and spend time with them, or if you do some of these things that you've learned, visiting the sick, all of, if you see yourself as a missionary of Judaism and of goodness, we're on
An
the
emissary of God.
an emissary of God. Yeah, I'm sure. And
Speaking of, we need T-shirts.
but then if we have
I,
that,
I,
people will think we're zealous.
I have a sweatshop in the back with non-Jews making shirts.
making T-shirts.
But you also talk about the Messiah. I have to be very careful.
No, carefully. I said it to you because you understood what I'm talking about. I wouldn't say that out on the street. People would think I'm nuts.
No, listen, we can clarify it, Judy. For us, the Messiah, Mashiach, is simply a force that pulls you out of yourself. It's a result of deep prayer when you finally find that point in you that pulls you down, that ego, but really see it in everything, in every action that shapes every decision that you make, every intention that you put into this world. And you get to a point where, like, I need to come out of it somehow. That's when
we kind of trained ourselves to look at all the words through like a spiritual lens. And it's clear that you can't just talk like that to somebody on the street because they don't have the same training, but you obviously have a lot of training. So it's going to be easy to talk in this shorthand with you about these concepts.
There's no problem.
I love that. I love that. It's going to be another way that I can explain Mashiach, because even every Havdalah experience, it's like, well, why does Elijah come here? Jews do, and by the way, you asked me in the very beginning, this is important. I know our time is probably up, but you asked me, what is a Jew? And I do a lot of conversions. I would say I've done, I don't know, 30. And they have a declaration of Jewish commitment. And I wanted to hand this to every congregant because I thought, I don't even know if people know why they're Jewish. And it has like the declaration. And I don't know if you want me to read it, but
yeah, do.
Okay, so it says, today I stand before God, my heart full of love. I stand with Father Abraham. And this is for conservatives too. Mother Sarah, who left their ancestral home to follow the summons of God to a life of justice and service. I stand with Jacob, who became Israel when he wrestled with God and prevailed. I stand with Moses, our teacher, who forsook a life of privilege to speak God's words to tyrants. I stand with Miriam, the prophet, who led our people in song and dance in celebration of our liberation from bondage. This from the community Beit.
I get the chills. It's beautiful.
Wait a minute. They have to say, I stand with the prophets of Israel, who, passionate for God's words, declared to imagine a world where God's justice prevails. And I stand with Ruth, who chose the people of Israel and God of Israel, and who created a new home in Israel for all time. Today I stand with the children of Israel, casting my lot with theirs, my hope with theirs, my pain and joy with theirs. I accept the Torah of Israel, making her teachings mine. I embrace her commandments and exhortations, her promises and her warnings. I commit myself to a lifetime of growth, study, and holiness. I renounce the worship of anyone or anything except the God of Israel, the creator of all things and all people. Today, I accept the challenge of listening for God's words, following God's teachings, and cleaving to God's ways. I'm almost done. I declare that I'm part of God's covenant with Israel, that I am now and forever a member of the house of Israel, and I repudiate allegiance to all other religious faiths and practices. Of my own free will and without reservation, I am a Jew and do pledge to live a Jewish life. May nothing Jewish ever be foreign to me.
Very beautiful. I feel like I'm a citizen of a new country if I read that.
Right? And then you say
Yeah.
the Shema, which is, what unites us. It's not talked about enough. It's just, and I think that you are right on that you're coming in through a spiritual doorway, because it's above the ego. It's above all those emotions. It's above all of that to say, hey, what are we really here for?
What's our sole purpose? Yeah.
And I don't know if every Jew knows that they have to focus in on a sole purpose. It's not woo-woo. It's not new age. It's real, and it's been there for 5,000 years and more.
Leo, do you have a quote from the sources or something for us?
Yeah, yeah. We usually
Our
like
resident
yeah,
quasi rabbi here, Leo Spiegler. You got
yeah.
some not real, but
I yeah. We ask someone to read. I mean, you read this beautiful thing from this declaration. What is it called?
The declaration, this when people are in the mikvah declaring their Jewish commitment after Beit Din, this is called, this is their declaration, their Hatzarat Emunah, their declaration of faith. And this is what's read at the community Beit Din after mikvah in Los Angeles. The Sanders.
Okay. So we have we have a ton of quotes on the purpose of the Jews. What does it mean to be a Jew and all that? And I was looking like as you were speaking, like you found something and I'm like, oh, this would be good. And then you're gonna switch to something and I'm like, oh no, this would be great. And then finally said like look for something about being Jewish. And so I have this thing. I know we're entering Hanukkah, but we're sort of accelerating the time, and this alludes to Purim. So if you could, it's from a book Sfat Emet, and if you can read that for us, that would be it's in the chat.
Okay. When the children of Israel become one bundle, Amalek has no control over them. This is why Haman slandered. This is one nation scattered and separated, since their whole power was in unity. And now they are a nation separated in truth. This is how it was. They are separated in truth. And that's how it was. Through the sins, the force of Amalek awakened and did not let them unite. And this is why it said, go gather all the Jews to assemble and fight for their lives, entirely through gathering and assembling. That's all. The righteous Mordecai joined them, and they became joined through him, since he had the power of unity. And I want to add to that, and we have resilience. We don't give up. We don't let the light go out.
so we need to do a follow-up where we I got the chills again, second time in the show. So let's do like a follow-up at some point in the future. I'm not sure what for sure the world is going to go through a lot of transformation in the next few months.
Yeah.
So maybe in half a year from now or something, we can see where we are and how this message is getting out in obvious ways and non-obvious ways, and how the world is hopefully turning over and hopefully going into its butterfly phase.
How many more thousands of people have we reached since now?
And that's what we never know, right? You
never know. You never know.
And who heard you today? And my prayer is that another 1,000 or has heard you and feels hope. This is the time of hope.
Yeah. I'm sure everyone in your congregation is going to be forced to listen to this. So I'm happy about that. And if you're one of them, please leave a comment, share this, leave a review on Spotify. It helps. And listen to the rabbi. She knows what she's talking about.
Follow me. Yes, follow me on social media. It's Rabbi Cantor Judy, and add the G, and you'll see me. Please keep listening to these beautiful men who are really, their heart is really out there, and it wants more hearts to join them. So keep doing your great work, the two of you.
We are the Jew Function, and we're out.